One full week of Washington Commanders training camp is officially in the books, and faithful, there is a lot to unpack. The early signs out of Ashburn have been genuinely encouraging across the board, but the further this camp goes, the more real substantive questions start bubbling up alongside all that excitement. So let's break down exactly who is trending up, who this coaching staff still needs to figure out, and what it all means heading toward that season opener against the Eagles. Let's start on the defensive side of the football, because this unit has completely reshaped its identity under new defensive coordinator Jayden Daniels, and the results through this first stretch of camp have been eye-opening. The single biggest storyline belongs to edge rusher Odafe Owe, the prized $100 million free agent addition this front office brought in specifically to fix a pass rush that desperately needed real juice. Through the first several padded practices, Owe was quite simply the best player on the entire field, giving fits to some of the best pass protectors this roster has to offer. And here is why that specific detail matters so much beyond just training camp bragging rights. A defense built around disguise and pressure from multiple angles becomes exponentially more dangerous when it also has one legitimate game-wrecking talent capable of consistently winning a true one-on-one matchup. That means Jayden Daniels does not necessarily need a perfectly disguised blitz package to generate pressure on third and long. He can simply create a favorable individual matchup, trust Owe to win his rep, and get home. That is exactly what this roster paid for, and through the first week of camp, that is exactly what it has gotten. Owe himself even used his recent media availability to highlight his run defense as the most underrated part of his overall game, a notable point considering some outside critics questioned whether he could truly produce without playing alongside multiple other dominant pass rushers on the same defensive line. Rookie linebacker Sonny Styles also emerged as a genuine standout the moment pads officially came on, which tends to be exactly when the real difference between hype and production reveals itself. Styles has been working across every single unit on this roster, from the ones all the way down to the fours, and once real physicality entered the equation, he started looking like a legitimately different caliber of player. He still shows some of the natural hesitation you would expect from a true rookie, still processing the speed of the professional game, but in moments where he is allowed to simply read and react, his combination of size, strength, and closing speed lets him cover an enormous amount of ground extremely quickly. Pair that kind of range with fellow standout safety Nick Cross, and this defense suddenly has legitimate speed and versatility patrolling the middle of the field that this roster simply has not featured in a very long time. Cross, in particular, has quickly become a fan favorite for his combination of size and blazing top-end speed, and he plays with a genuinely physical, aggressive edge that suggests real turnover production is coming once the games start counting for real. Rookie edge defender Joshua Josephs also deserves a real mention here, even though it is admittedly still very early to draw firm conclusions off a single strong day. Josephs came out of Tennessee with a reputation as a player who flashed legitimate first-round caliber talent but simply needed more consistency and additional strength to fully unlock that potential. Through this opening stretch of camp, he has been logging real pressures, winning individual matchup drills, and even dropping back into coverage effectively, showing off a level of positional versatility that could make him one of the more valuable pieces on this entire defense if his development continues on this trajectory. And then there is veteran cornerback Rasul Douglas, who has been outstanding since the moment he arrived in Ashburn. With Trey Amos still working his way back from a fractured fibula suffered last season, Douglas has firmly locked down one of the outside cornerback jobs, and it is a perfect example of exactly what a proven veteran addition can do for a roster this late in the offseason cycle. He raises both the floor and the ceiling of an entire position group almost immediately, simply by being available and productive from day one. Of course, not everything on defense is fully settled just yet, and there are some genuinely fascinating question marks worth watching closely. The most intriguing one might be how heavily Durante Jones is leaning into using 3 safeties on the field at the same time, deploying players like Nick Cross, safety Will Harris, and even rookie safety Tyler Owens in what essentially amounts to an extra linebacker role in the box. That is a genuinely bold scheme decision, especially considering safety has generally been viewed as one of the thinner position groups on this entire roster. Watching how that specific wrinkle continues to evolve as camp progresses will be one of the more fascinating subplots on this side of the ball. There is also a real question mark surrounding defensive tackle Darren Payne, who has shown some encouraging flashes and disruptive moments early in camp. Payne remains the most experienced, proven interior force on this defensive line, and by most accounts he is currently surrounded by more overall talent than at any previous point in his career, which naturally raises real expectations for what he can produce this season. The cornerback competition opposite Rasul Douglas also remains genuinely unresolved. It essentially comes down to Trey Amos continuing his recovery timeline versus incumbent Mike Sainristil holding down that outside spot. Amos has been doing individual work and is expected to be reevaluated later this week, but it remains unclear whether he will have enough time to fully sharpen up before the regular season opener. In the meantime, Sainristil has turned in a genuinely mixed showing so far this camp, surrendering a well-thrown touchdown to Terry McLaurin on a nearly unstoppable pass, but also closing out a separate practice with back-to-back pass breakups. That kind of inconsistency is exactly what training camp battles are made of, and it is one worth continuing to monitor closely as roster decisions get finalized. As for the scheme itself, it is genuinely difficult to overstate just how unpredictable and multiple this new Durante Jones defense has looked through the opening stretch of camp. Alignments are constantly shifting, personnel groupings are rotating unpredictably, and the overall presentation refuses to settle into any consistent readable pattern. On one memorable rep, Owe actually dropped back into coverage while a safety who started the play well off the line of scrimmage walked down and blitzed off the edge instead, a genuinely unconventional wrinkle that speaks to just how aggressively this staff is willing to disguise pressure. The scheme itself looks cutting-edge and full of legitimate innovation. The real challenge for Durante Jones now becomes adaptability, because it is one thing to look sharp and unpredictable in the opening weeks of a season before opposing coaches have real film to study. It is an entirely different challenge to keep evolving and staying one step ahead by the time this defense reaches the middle and late stretches of a real season, once opponents have built a real book on every wrinkle. Early returns here are genuinely excellent, but the true measure of this defense's success will come much later in the year. Now let's shift over to the offensive side of the ball, because there is plenty to be genuinely excited about there as well. Quarterback Jayden Daniels sits comfortably at the top of the stock-up list, and rightfully so. He did not let a rocky opening day rattle him in the slightest, working behind a mostly reshuffled receiver room and adjusting to a brand-new offensive system, all while going up against an aggressive, cutting-edge new defensive scheme every single day in practice. Daniels simply got better and better as camp progressed. He has been putting together excellent, efficient practices, showing masterful ball placement, and increasingly slicing apart a defense that is specifically designed to confuse and challenge him. These are exactly the kind of low-risk, high-value developmental reps a young franchise quarterback needs, working through the game in a fully controlled environment rather than dealing with any of the real physical risk that comes with live game action. Tight ends Ben Sinnott and Colson Yankoff have both emerged as genuine surprises early in this camp as well. Both players are being targeted heavily within this new offense, well beyond what many fans or analysts might have reasonably expected heading into the summer. Sinnott in particular has seen his overall role expand significantly, lining up at fullback on certain snaps, working as a lead blocker, and even serving as the primary read on play-action concepts. Yankoff has quietly built real chemistry within this new scheme as well, showing legitimate improvement that could realistically push him from being a roster-cut candidate heading into camp to a genuine contributor once the regular season begins. Running back Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt also deserves real praise here, particularly after visibly adding strength to his frame this offseason and putting in real work addressing his previous ball security issues. He has looked every bit as explosive as before despite the added muscle, scoring multiple touchdowns already through camp both on the ground and through the air, while his hands and overall receiving ability appear to have taken a real step forward as well. If that improvement holds up under real game conditions, it makes him a significantly more well-rounded three-down option than he was viewed as entering this offseason. And finally, receiver Luke McCaffrey rounds out this stock-up group, continuing to build a real, legitimate case that he belongs firmly in the mix as one of this offense's top three receiving options once the regular season actually begins. As for the lingering questions on offense, center depth remains a real concern given Nick Allegretti's ongoing recovery from a calf strain, an injury type that tends to require real patience and caution, especially this early in a long season. Behind him, backup options remain largely unproven at this stage. There is also the ongoing unresolved situation surrounding free agent receiver Stephon Diggs, who remains unsigned as camp continues, with real speculation continuing to link him to either the Commanders or the Chiefs as his eventual landing spot. Whether that ends up including him on this roster before the season begins remains a genuine storyline worth monitoring closely over these coming days. And finally, this coaching staff still has not shown much of its running game in fully live tackling conditions, meaning it remains an open question whether this offense can consistently establish the run early enough in games to properly set up the explosive, play-action shots this new scheme is clearly built around. Offensive coordinator David Blough has also drawn real, legitimate praise for the offense he has installed so far, featuring genuine modern touches, deceptive motion, and multiple different ways of manufacturing easy yards after the catch for his playmakers. Considering both Blough and Durante Jones are first-time NFL play callers going up against each other in practice daily, there is a genuine belief that both coaches are sharpening each other in real time, an underrated dynamic that could benefit this entire coaching staff for years to come. So that is where things stand after one full week of Washington Commanders training camp. Faithful, a dominant, expensive new pass rusher already living up to his contract. A pair of rookies forcing their way into serious conversations on defense. A young quarterback continuing to build real, tangible confidence. And still plenty of genuine questions left to answer before this team truly finds its final identity heading into the regular season. Let me know down in the comments who has impressed you most through this first week of camp, and whether you think this defense can maintain this level of disruption once the regular season actually begins. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe before you go, because there is a lot more training camp coverage still coming this summer. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I will see you in the next one. Raise Hail.